Episode 11 of the Belleville Sens podcast. Belleville coming off a couple of losses last week, getting set for a 3-3 weekend with some big-time playoff implications on the line. David Foote, Joel Vanderlaan here, and I feel like I've been saying that for weeks. This week's games have big playoff implications, and that's just been the situation that the Senators have been in, scratching, clawing, battling to try to get into the playoff picture, and they were for a bit. They start the week outside of the playoff picture, but still in the hunt. And we'll discuss that and more over the course of the next, 45 minutes or so. We believe the boss will be here. Breanne Matthews, Senior Vice President of Business Operations of the Belleville Sens, will be our Get to Know Your FO guest today. We're going to recap a very successful, I think, Belleville Bulls history of hockey night and more. So welcome inside to the Belleville Sens podcast. Before we get going, we'd like to remind you to, again, subscribe to the pod wherever you're listening. Rating and a review would be fantastic as we work towards the end of the regular season here in 2022-23. How's it going, Joel? Good. I'd always say good to see you, like I don't see you every single day, but how are things?
It's going well. It's going to be a hectic week here, I think, after a pretty impressive Belleville Bulls history of hockey night. So things are rolling here. Things are rolling along, and as we know, it's going to be another tough week for the Belleville Senators with two good teams they're going to face off against.
We'll get to the Bulls night history of hockey night in a moment. Let's start with the Friday night game. Senators had a light week. Came off that busy road trip, the trip to Cleveland, where they split those two games against the Monsters, and then had basically all week off to get ready for Friday and the Bridgeport Islanders, and didn't turn out Belleville's way. A 5-2 Islanders win despite an early goal from Max Gannett, which really, I think, had the building bumping, a lot of optimism, and then the Islanders, who are a very good team, managed to flip the script. Jake Lucchini did score in that game as well, but what did you make of the first game of the week on Friday?
I think for most of the game, it was kind of back and forth, and it was a good, hardly fought game, contested game, and it kind of got away from the Belleville Senators at the end there. They were pushing to tie the hockey game, and if we remember correctly, Jakob Skark makes two huge saves, and the Bridgeport Islanders go down the other end, and Andy Andrioff scores a goal. And then they're able to add a little bit of insurance with an empty net marker. So 5-2 score in the box score there, but I think a lot closer than the final score kind of tends to show in this one as well.
And always tough to lose points at this time of year, regardless of if it's a division opponent or not. We put a little bit of stock in the fact that Belleville was not playing divisional games last weekend, which meant the results are maybe not as impactful as they would be if they were playing in the division. That said, it's 2 points missed, and here we are now with 7 or 8 games left, and the Senators are on the outside looking in. We'll give you a full rundown of the AHL's playoff primer at the start of the week as well here on episode 11 of the Belleville Sens podcast. But it's a couple points missed, and it was really a chance for Belleville to rebound and show a better performance than they did in Bridgeport about a month or so ago. And again, despite getting off the mark 5-16 in, Bridgeport just kind of came on. Couple goals in the second period for the Islanders. Jake Lucchini scores midway through the third, and then you mentioned that sequence leading to the Andrioff goal that put things out of reach and turned out to be a little bit of a tough night for the Senators. Kevin Mandolese returning from the NHL in that game, stopping 26 of 30, and I think looked pretty good at times. There might have been some concern about confidence coming back down, but I think he looked all right.
Yeah, I think Kevin Mandolese, as he's done all season, has given this team good minutes, and I think a couple of those goals he didn't really have much of a chance on, some turnovers in tight, and when he had to be there, he made some pretty big saves as well. So I think the thing for the Belleville Senators now, and Dylan Ferguson just reassigned as well, is they got 3 really good goaltenders that have played games in the American Hockey League this year, and then they have Levi Merrilainen still around too. So something that hasn't been a strength of their team this year is having healthy goalies. So right now, David Bell has a pretty strong stable.
Yeah, 4 goaltenders now on the roster in Belleville as of the recording of this podcast, which is Tuesday morning, March 28th. Dylan Ferguson sent down, so you've got Ferguson, Merrilainen, Mandolese, Bibeau. Plenty of guys to choose from now as we head through the final 8 games or so of the regular season. So, again, the weekend starts with a Friday loss to Bridgeport, 5-2. Sens, I think, got a little bit of help elsewhere on Friday because some other teams had lost as well. And that takes us into the Saturday night game, the main event of the weekend. Some might say the main event of the promotional calendar. On Belleville Bulls night, history of hockey night. And we had, 20-something alumni back. We had 3,600 plus in the building, rocking the black and gold and red. And, boy, it was a fantastic night. We're going to let this run underneath a little bit, I think, while we talk about the game. But the score didn't work out the way that the Senators obviously wanted to. And, again, another game, Joel, where Sens have a really, really good start. Even first period, back and forth. I mean, they were outshot a fair bit, but didn't seem overly under fire, despite the fact that they were outshot fairly heavily in the first period. They get the only goal of the second. Angus Crookshank on the doorstep in his office scores his team-leading 24th of the season. Jonathan Aspro comes out, scores midway through the third. Everything's looking good. The crowd is into it. And then Ty Felleber scores at 13:29. 5 minutes later, Cole Schneider ties the game, and that's with a minute and a half left and the extra attacker out, and a scenario that we've seen maybe a dozen times for the Belleville Sens this season. They go on to lose in a shootout and, again, give up an extra point that really could have been valuable because now Belleville heads into the week, again, out of the playoff picture. Just one of those games where this team has been having some trouble holding on to leads and playing with leads.
Yeah, and you can see why the Milwaukee Admirals have 38 wins on the season, and I think kind of the switch kind of flipped there late in the third period, and I think Milwaukee kind of said, okay, we don't want to leave here without any points. We want to sweep this weekend after a win in Toronto, a win in Laval too. So a good start from the Belleville Senators. Like you mentioned, Antoine Bibeau was excellent in net, making 35 saves, really good in overtime as well to help get this game to a shootout. And I think all in all, you have to take a little bit of some positive notes out of this game as well, is that Belleville was able to play with a team like Milwaukee for take them to a shootout. Maybe you look at it and you say, well, they kind of blew it. But at the end of the day, they do get a point against a very, very good team. And you start to see some of the characteristics of this team shining through. Angus Crookshank continues his strong season. It's always nice to see a guy like Jonathan Aspro get on the board. He works hard every game. He's always in the battle for this hockey club. So at the end of the day, you still gain a valuable point. Maybe you feel like you lost the second point a little bit, but at the end, you kind of have to look at it too. The kind of opponent you're playing too in the Milwaukee Admirals, and they're a hell of a hockey club.
Yeah, they are extremely strong, and Senators run into a situation that they're going to run into again the rest of this week, where you're playing teams that are not fighting to get into the playoffs, but they're fighting for better seeding and perhaps an easier opponent or home ice advantage. And I think that's where the Milwaukee Admirals are at. They're this close to the top of the Central Division, and that's where they want to be. So they were not going to roll over by any means, despite the fact that the Senators had a pretty steady game, we'll say, and like you say, hung with a team like the Milwaukee Admirals.
Yeah, I think that shows just how good the Belleville Senators can be at times, and that they can hang with hockey clubs like this, and they're going to need to against a team like the Toronto Marlies this week. Syracuse has been playing really well of late too. They've climbed up into third place. They want to get into second place in the North Division. That's within striking distance for them now. So I think it's going to be a lot more of these kind of tightly contested, low-scoring games, which we've seen for the last week or so here now. Is no one wants to give up any points. No one wants to make any mistakes that are going to cost you some playoff seeding, cost you standing points. So. And especially this week in these 4-point games, so to speak, against Toronto and Syracuse.
The pace of the game, the style of the game really seems to flip once you get into late February and into March as teams start to focus on that playoff style, and that's definitely what we're seeing of late, these tighter defensive, more low-scoring games. And yeah, I think you're right. That trend will likely continue as the Sens head to Syracuse on Friday, and then Toronto on, home to Toronto Saturday, and then in Toronto on Sunday. We'll recap, or we'll preview, I suppose, the week ahead in a little bit. We are going to get to know your FO with Breanne Matthews in a few minutes, but let's talk about history of Hockey Night first. What was the highlight for you? Because you grew up around the Belleville area. I know your family is close to the area, and you've got ties here. We had a nice chat with your mom about her favorite Bulls back in the day after the game. What was the highlight for you?
I think just seeing the community come together, I think seeing the jerseys in the crowd really kind of touched home. And I think it's the memories that come back to you and the good feelings that come to you. And I think for me, it's very cool to see my dad, who grew up a Bulls fan, my mom, you mentioned too, and just see the smiles on their faces. They see some of these alumni walk out on the ice. Brent Gretzky, I know, was a fan favorite for my mom. So my dad got his hockey card signed by him, so it was pretty cool to kind of see it all tie in together. And then I think the jerseys kind of put everything together nicely and tied everything back together. And I think overall it's great to see the community come out and support. And I know there's a lot of people that haven't maybe been in the building the last 5-6 years that came back to this hockey game and just saw how nice the arena is now with the renovations, and we're able to see how good the American Hockey League is. So hopefully we're able to kind of keep that high going as the Belleville Sens make a push to the playoffs.
Yeah, the jerseys came out really good, and I think we have to give a little bit of props to the folks at S&P and CCM and Cat Stitch who got them done, and of course Matt Mitchell for keeping all those folks on track, making sure the jerseys got here on time. They were certainly the highlight. The auction is still open for a few more days, I believe.
Saturday night, I think at 11 p.m. it ends. So.
Perfect. So if you're, again, this is Tuesday, March 28th, the recording of this. Saturday, April 1st, April Fool's Day, is when the auction will end. You can head to BellevilleSens.com to find the link to our Dash Auctions page. The bids are getting up there. They are a popular piece of memorabilia, and you can get your bid in on those before the deadline on Saturday. And again, on Saturday, the Sens will be home to the Toronto Marlies. Only, a couple hundred tickets left, again, as of the recording of this, for Cool 100 Country Night as well. We're looking forward to that. We will tee that up in a little bit. We'll do the standings and all that, I think, before we tee up the week two. So we'll take a short breather. We'll get to know your FO with the Senior Vice President, Business Operations, the Belleville Senators, Breanne Matthews. On the way to that, the highlight of the week comes from Antoine Bibeau in the final minute of overtime, saving the game, giving the Sens a chance to get to a shootout. Of course, it didn't turn out that great, but this save was great from Antoine Bibeau. 10 seconds left. Here come the Admirals. A shot and a save and a rebound and another save by Bibeau in overtime. Antoine Bibeau has made at least 3 outstanding saves during the bonus period, and he makes that one with 4.5 seconds to go. Continuing on, episode 11 of the Belleville Sens Podcast. David Foote and Joel Vanderlaan here. Again, we recapped the losses to Bridgeport and Milwaukee and a little bit of nostalgia with Bulls night. We will preview the upcoming 3-3 Syracuse, Toronto. But first, it's time for everybody's favorite segment, Get to Know Your FO. And after a couple of weeks, we finally managed to wrangle the boss, Breanne Matthews, Senior Vice President, Business Operations of the Belleville Senators, is with us today. Hello. Hi, Breanne.
Oh, hello.
We managed to track you down. I know
this is so exciting.
Crazy times right now. Playoffs approaching. We're trying to get schedules done. We're trying to execute the final 8 home games of the year. No, 8 games of the year.
Yeah.
Boy, this whole year has just been an absolute blur.
It's a whirlwind.
I imagine it's been the same for you.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, probably not as crazy as it is for you guys because I don't go on the road. So
right.
I get some reprieve, which you have not had. But we're super grateful for you, David.
Oh, thank you. This was not the point of this, for the record. It's been a crazy year. It's been there's been a lot going on. The team's been kind of up and down. We've dealt with the usual transactions. We're starting to build a little bit more out of COVID and all the limitations that we had as an organization through the last couple of years. And I think in that sense, despite maybe the results where the team's sitting right now, it's been a pretty positive year, it feels like.
Oh, yeah. Like this year from a business perspective has been hugely successful for us. I think coming out of COVID, we really didn't know what to expect. Last year, we had so many, limitations and difficulties and problems. And, for the entire duration of the pandemic, we only were able to maintain 3 staff members. So, we ran one season with just 3 of us working part-time and building the whole front office back last year. And, now coming into kind of season 2 with the majority of a full-ish staff. We still have some roles that we're hiring for. But yeah, from that perspective, it's been hugely successful for us. I mean, we saw an increase in seasons tickets this year of 27% year over year. Ticket revenue increased this year by, over 63%. And our corporate revenue for the first time surpassed $1 million, which is really exciting. So, and it's really just kind of been, sometimes the business will kind of ebb and flow based on performance of the team. But, I think we've really kind of dug into our community programming this year. And that's kind of been able to kind of sustain us through things. And this community has really, started to show up for us.
Yeah, we launched the Sens at School program. Ben Cochran, who we had on a few weeks back, spearheaded that. And I know that's been extremely successful. We've been out with our friends at World Elite Training, had players out there, the Belleville Bearcats and our All-In program. That's been extremely successful again. And I think, when you look at how things are going on the ice, and maybe it's not so great, there's a lot that we can take off the ice that this team up here and the team downstairs has been doing in the community to really, I think, strengthen that connection that was lost over the pandemic and maybe before.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. The American Hockey League is always going to be a development league, and it's a development league for players. It's a development league for coaches, staff, and there's lots of opportunity in that. And so there's always going to be ups and downs. There's always going to be, different things that are happening, and, performance in the team is always going to be changing. And so, that's something that we have to really kind of provide to our community, is these opportunities for growth and for, commitment. And really, the guys downstairs have really, shown up for us this year with our school programming, and, different people up here definitely taking the lead on different projects. And I think that, all in all, it's been incredibly positive for us.
I think the kind of the big talking point over the last week has been renewals. From your perspective, how has that gone? I know when we talk with account executives, they're really proud about what they've been able to accomplish here, and we have a really strong season ticket base. I think that's always been kind of a calling card for this franchise.
Oh, yeah. So when the team first came here, obviously, when a team first comes to a community, the season ticket base is massive. And after that, you'll see, huge amounts of drop, and you'll get down to kind of like an 80%, 75% rate. And that's kind of where we were sitting around, 2019, 2020. And with the pandemic, we had a lot of season ticket holders who stuck with us, and we had some dedicated programming and different things, but really weren't able to deliver on a lot of what season ticket holders sign up for. And so the last 2 years, we have some of the best account executives, just a phenomenal team of guys here who are super, super invested in their work and super invested in, the people that they're working with on a daily basis. And, last year we saw really strong renewals, which was fantastic. And, we brought in over 300 new seasons tickets this year, which, ranked us kind of middle in the league, which is really great for an arena of our size. And renewals right now are going fantastic. The guys started off really strong. They had a lot of really great conversations. The renewal season is, in the last couple of weeks and goes through to kind of June. But, these guys have been working on renewals, and they've been working on these relationships that they've been building all year and last year. And, they walk around the rink on a game night, and people know who they are, and, they know who their ticket holders are. And, they have ticket holders drop off cookies, and we had donuts,
we
and
had some
different
baked goods
things
the other day.
Yeah, it's really amazing. And that speaks to the work that they put in on a daily basis. So renewals are going really strong right now. We're trending in line with our targets and our goals. And, I've set some pretty aggressive goals for next season. And, I have absolute faith in our guys that we'll be reaching those for sure.
Chatting with the Senators Senior Vice President, Business Operations, Breanne Matthews. We're running the contest right now, renewal contest. So if you haven't heard, if you buy new or renew your season seat membership before May 31st, you'll be entered into weekly draws for various prizes, Belleville Sens prize packs, some Ottawa Senators gear, things like that. And then the grand prize is a chance to win your season seats as long as you renew before May 31st. Why is it so important to get people on board early? While this season's still going?
Yeah, so basically the way that we look at renewals is once people are no longer coming to hockey, they move on to other things. Their kids are in different sporting activities for the summer. They're going to cottages. They're thinking about summer activities. The Bay of Quinte is just filled with opportunities for summer activities. We're so lucky to have that here. So we want to get in front of people and make sure that we're having those communications so that we can kind of lock them in for next year and kind of get that out of the way before everyone's busy doing other things. And so a lot of the incentives that we have are based on our kind of like early bird renewal. And that helps us as well with our business planning. So looking at budgets, looking at, spend for the upcoming year, we have to purchase specialty jerseys. We have to purchase, merchandise products, all that kind of stuff. We have to, put deposits down for team travel. So this time of year is very big for us from a business perspective because we really have to, be able to look ahead and say, okay, where are we going to stand in September and October and November as we kind of start into the season and have a really heavy spend for us.
Yeah, it's and again, if you buy now, you can buy your tickets and then you just don't have to worry about it. And they'll show up in your email, and then come October next year, you'll be ready to just walk in and get right into the action.
Yeah, exactly. And we have some really fun events that we're planning for over the summer and in the fall too for our season seat members. And so, we want to be able to get people involved and have them really feel like they're part of the team. And that's been a huge thing that Alex Pickford has been bringing on as the director in that department. And it's really fantastic for us. And also, from a staffing perspective, I want those account executives that have worked hard all year, and same with you guys, to, also be able to enjoy their summer a little bit and, be able to take some time off in June and July and not, worry about, coming back in August and having, an email filled with people wanting to renew their tickets.
Which would not be a bad thing, but it's everybody wants that summer break for sure.
Exactly.
If you want more information on Belleville Senators season seat membership for 2023-24, head to BellevilleSens.com. If you hover your mouse over the tickets link up at the top, the first link there is 23-24 season seats, and all the info you need, prices, contact info, and more available on that page so you can get your season seats renewed nice and early. You mentioned specialty jerseys, and we had a pretty big specialty night on the weekend with Belleville Bulls History of Hockey Night. It seems like everything went pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
How did you feel about it?
I thought it was fantastic. So I didn't grow up in Belleville. I grew up in downtown Toronto and was a Leafs fan, but not anymore. But...
None of us are Leaf fans anymore.
None of us at all. But yeah, so I, for years now, I've been in Belleville now for 8 years. Been with the team since 2019, and so you've heard about this legacy of the Belleville Bulls for years and years and years, and really kind of wanting to capture that and wanting to, share that with our audience. And, it's so important. Last spring, I think it was, when we you came up with the idea, David, and really pushed for it and advocated for it. And, we met with the previous owner to, get rights to the logo and all of that kind of stuff, and took him on a tour of the facility, which he hadn't seen since the renovations. And, at the end of it, he kind of said, this had to happen. The team leaving had to happen for this AHL team to come here and for the, the city to make this investment into its community and into professional hockey. And, that kind of drove it home for me as, we really have to celebrate what came before us. And there's so much nostalgia. There's so many people here who, those are the greatest moments of their youth. They're here with their family and their parents, and throughout kind of the weeks leading up to it, I had people messaging me on Instagram or Twitter and stuff saying, oh my gosh, I used to go to Bulls game all the time. I used to do this. And I was in high school with PK and all this kind of stuff. And you're like, this is so great. Like that's what we want to create now. So to be able to bring that back for people was just a phenomenal experience.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And maybe not even just the fans, the alumni, they don't have something maybe to go back to. There's no OHL franchise anymore. How much did they kind of express their gratitude for us hosting this event and kind of giving them an outlet to come back?
Oh, yeah. Like, I think, there was this whole kind of thought process when the Belleville Sens first came here that, we were trying to be different and trying to be new and trying to be something else and trying to kind of show the community how different the AHL was from the OHL. And I think in doing that, we really kind of alienated this community and this group of people who, as you said, they didn't have a home to go home to. It's the franchise changed names, they're in a different city, all that kind of stuff is completely different. And this was really a huge part of this town and this community and this region. And the alumni was so grateful afterwards, and it was just so phenomenal. We had the parade, and they're all walking across, and they have all of their kids are there, and their young kids are so excited, and it's an opportunity for them too. Like their kids didn't see them playing. They didn't see them being these superstars in this community, and now getting to have that opportunity and getting to share that with their families was so special. And they were just completely blown away. Some of them hadn't seen the renovations of the arena. They just said, this is so great that that we were doing that. And in my mind, I was like, of course, like this makes total sense.
Yeah.
David Foote said we had to, so I was like, this makes sense. But yeah, it was just a phenomenal night. Like I was beyond thrilled with it.
Yeah, and it was great, and seeing the alumni reactions was fantastic, and just seeing the buzz around the building, and not that our team has not generated buzz. Let's be honest, because they have.
Yeah.
But just that little bit of nostalgia, I think, really got people excited, and again for us, it's a chance to remind people that yes, we are not the Belleville Bulls. We are a different team. We are a different league, but at the heart of it, we're still this community's hockey club. Mm-hmm. And the CAA Arena, even though it has a new name, is still that place to gather once a week, twice a week with your friends, with your family, take in a game, and let loose and have a good time. And I think that kind of got across as well. So successful, I think, night, and maybe we'll do it again in the future. We have to make some decisions, I think.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
I think a lot of people would be happy to see that for sure. A couple more minutes here with Breanne Matthews, Senior Vice President, Business Operations, Belleville Senators. Looking ahead now, the season's winding down. Renewals are in full effect. We're planning for the playoff schedule. What else does somebody in your position have to worry about as the season draws to a close?
Yeah, so a lot of it is, I've been working on the budget for the last couple of months.
Fun stuff, always exciting. Yeah.
So fun. It's, my least favorite part of my job, but a big part of my job. And so I've been working on that. And that basically includes, building out the schedule for next season, working with our general manager, Ryan, to make sure that, my vision for the schedule matches the hockey vision for the schedule. Mm-hmm. Looking at, costs and expenses. And a big part of that as well is staffing. So looking at, moving ahead, to get to the revenue targets that we want to get to, how do we need to grow our staff to reach those goals? And a lot of it is planning and preparation. I know I say this all the time, but preparation leads to separation, and we really have to. That's something that we as a franchise have not always done well, and COVID's been a big part of that, and not having staff and different things. But we have an opportunity to kind of really plan for success for next season, and so I do a lot of that right now, and finalizing all of those things, getting approval from the board, and then pretty much starting in May, I move into. I have a lot of Board of Governors meetings. I travel. I go to Chicago in May, Tucson in June, South Carolina in July.
Tough, man.
Yeah,
tough.
so
Sounds
brutal.
so tough.
So brutal.
It never stops, though. The work never stops. And, one season ends, and you got to be ready for the next one to roll up again, because that summer's going to go real fast.
Oh yeah. Every year it sneaks up on you. Like, we start planning the next season pretty much in January. So looking at ticket pricing, ticket build. And, I think even with that, we're a little bit late with it sometimes. Like we probably should start in December, November, for the next year. But yeah, merchandise buying and lead times and all of that kind of stuff all takes a lot of time. And I think, people don't necessarily realize that. I think definitely people on our Instagram feed don't always realize that. But
the ones offering free loans to everybody.
Free loans. They're paying off
Also,
debts.
if you're on our Instagram, don't approach those people. They're not actually paying you money.
It's not real.
For the record. That's great. Well, we know you're busy. We don't want to take too much more of your time, but is there anything you'd like to say to Belleville Sens Nation while we've got you here?
No, I don't know. Like, I think, I'm a huge fan of the podcast. So if you like and subscribe and make sure that you rate it 5 stars.
Five stars. Yeah.
But yeah, I think just, I love what we're doing here. And if you're interested in getting involved, let us know. And, it's a great place to be. This is the community's team. This is the community's place. And, we just want to be sure that we're serving the community in the way that the community needs.
Breanne Matthews is the Senior Vice President of Business Operations for the Belleville Senators. Thank you so much for finally taking some time for us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
All right. We'll take a quick breather. When we come back, we will tee up the 3 games this weekend. Sens are at Syracuse Friday, home to Toronto Saturday for Cool 100 Country Night, and in Toronto on Sunday. We'll get you set for that in just a moment on episode 11 of the Belleville Sens podcast. Stay with us. Final segment, episode 11 of the Belleville Sens podcast. Thanks to Belleville Sens Senior Vice President, Business Operations, Breanne Matthews, for her time. Again, if you want to learn more about season ticket renewals for the Senators, you can head to BellevilleSens.com, hover over the ticket tab at the top of the page, click the 2023-24 season seats link, and that will take you to the page that, again, gets you all the info, prices, membership benefits, contact info to reach our ticket staff, and more. BellevilleSens.com. And hover over the tickets tab, click the season ticket link for 23-24. I'll tell you, season seats for the premium 2-year membership start as low as $816.12 for an entire season's worth of Belleville Senators hockey. So, again, BellevilleSens.com for all those details. Running out of time to see the Sens at home. This season, only a handful of home games left. One of them is coming up on Saturday. It's Cool 100 Country Night, and we'll have personalities from Cool 100 here. They'll be giving away a pair of tickets to see Lee Bryce in Ottawa during what I assume will be a raucous game of musical chairs. In the first intermission, we'll have all your favorite country tunes banging out through the rink, as well as the Sens take on the Marlies. And only about 300 tickets or so left for that game on Saturday as of the recording of this program at 11:28 on Tuesday, March the 28th. Hey, look at that. So get your tickets for Saturday if you're planning on coming to the game. And if you got nothing going on Sunday, make the trip down the 401 to Coca-Cola Coliseum. Support the Sens on the road in Toronto. Belleville comes into the game, Joel, into the week, as we mentioned earlier on, in a tough spot, sitting in last place, 7th in the North Division standings, 62 points, tied on points with the Laval Rocket, and Cleveland is in 5th with 63 points, and then Rochester is in 4th with 69 points. And I think as intriguing as the 2-3-4 battle between Syracuse, Rochester, and Utica is going to be, because there's only 2 points separating those 3 teams. And as much as you don't want to start counting the Senators out, and that's not really the point of what I'm about to say, but I think if we're being realistic, and you and I are fairly realistic guys when we watch games, as much as we like to root for the Senators, at this point, I think 5th place is going to be the target for Belleville. They could get into 4th. They do have a game to play against the Rochester Americans still, so that's 2 points to make up. But right now there are 7 points separating Belleville and Rochester for that fourth place. Rochester has a game in hand, and the Senators would have to win 4 games just to make up that difference and have Rochester lose the same amount of games. So it's not impossible. But I think for simplicity's sake, it's probably easier to just look at Laval, Cleveland, Belleville battling for the 5 spot, and then Utica, Syracuse, Rochester battling for the 2, 3, 4 spots. Senators have a couple of really important games against Cleveland coming up next week, and those are both home games. Really good chance for fans to get here and make an impact on the playoff push. But how important do you feel this weekend is, even given the fact that the Sens are playing the current number 3 team in the division and then 2 games against the number 1 team in the division that's already clinched its playoff spot?
Yeah, it's a vital week again, and I think the biggest thing for the Belleville Senators is you kind of got to take control of your own destiny here and start stacking up wins again like they have done in the past month or so to get back into the playoff race. So it's another huge week, and the only way you can continue to climb is just collect wins. So you can't really sit back and hope Cleveland loses or Laval loses. It's at the end of the day, it's winning your games and hoping you get a little bit of luck from those squads as well. So 2 really big games against the Toronto Marlies, who are struggling a little bit of late. Very good hockey club, not to take anything away from them. And then the Syracuse Crunch, a team that Belleville's had some success against this season. They have a winning record against them. So they're winnable hockey games. They're tough teams, but at the end of the day, the Belleville Senators have beat some really good squads on the year, and they've beat both of these squads too. So you kind of have to look back at the course of the season and think about, put that away a little bit and kind of look straight ahead. And at the end of the day, they're in a position to make the playoffs in the last month here, and that's where you want to be.
In Syracuse on Friday, Sens have only won there 4 times in franchise history, but one of those wins was this season. And this is a building that's very difficult to play in. The Syracuse Crunch are extremely tough at home. They play physical. They use the momentum from their crowd to their advantage. And the Senators are going to have to kind of shake the curse of the Upstate Medical University Arena on Friday. These are technically not must-win games, but at the same time, they are. They're not must-win games in the sense that if you lose on Friday, you're out of the hunt. But you need to start making up those points. As you kind of mentioned, you're going to need some luck from the other teams, but all that means nothing if you don't win your own games yourself. For me, I think that they've got to go like 6-2 over the final 8 games. 2 of those 6 wins have to be against Cleveland. That's when we get into must-win territory, but still extremely important games this weekend against a couple tough teams, like you mentioned, and a couple of teams that look a little bit different than the last time the Senators played them. Syracuse, not so much. They've only made a couple of moves, but the Toronto Marlies got fleeced by their parent club, really. The Maple Leafs swung a bunch of deals at the NHL trade deadline and upended their team a little bit, frankly, and maybe that's contributing to their bit of a slide, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, and I think that's kind of what we've seen in the American Hockey League is your roster's always evolving. It's always changing, so they've lost some good players. Joey Anderson, Mikhail Abramov's gone. They've brought in some guys from U.S. college, a couple guys from Europe as well. So they've been getting guys in and kind of trying to gel again late in the season, which is never easy. But you look at it, and this team knows how to beat the Toronto Marlies. They've beaten them before, and I think it's going to go down to just a good old home-and-home series with the Toronto Marlies. It's going to be tight. It's going to be tough, and neither team's going to want to give anything up. And after what happened last season with the Toronto Marlies missing the playoffs on the last day of the season,
thanks to the Belleville Senators.
Yeah, they're not going to be given any favors. So it's going to be kind of, as David Bell sometimes says, a little bit of ugly hockey. And I think these two teams don't mind that too much.
Well, in our opening segment, we were talking about last weekend's games. You suggested the the Senators could perhaps get some confidence from hanging in with a team like the Milwaukee Admirals, who are right near the top of their division, and they're going to play. The Sens are going to play another couple teams near the top of the division. So how much do you think they look back on the way they played on Saturday in terms of the opponents they're going to face this week?
I think they have to. I think when they look over the video, I think that's kind of the blueprint for how they have to beat the Syracuse Crunch and Toronto Marlies. And they've been doing it for the last month or so. They've been able to kind of tighten down defensively and scrap and claw to wins. And that's what they're going to have to do again this week against two really good teams.
So 3 games this weekend, 2 on the road, Friday in Syracuse, and then Sunday in Toronto, sandwiched over top of a Saturday night home game at CAA Arena against the Toronto Marlies. Maybe let's just give you a little recap of the playoff picture across the league. Through games of March 27th, 2 teams have clinched in the Atlantic, Providence and Hershey battling for top spot in that division. Charlotte and Springfield and Lehigh Valley are just about in. Bridgeport, Hartford on the bubble. Wilkes-Barre, Scranton kind of in a position like Belleville, though they are further out of the playoff picture. They're 7 points from even getting in right now, let alone Belleville, who are 7 points from the second to last spot in the division. Toronto's the only team that's clinched in the North Division. Utica and Syracuse both have under 10 magic numbers to clinch, but they haven't yet. Nobody's clinched in the Central. That's how tight it is. 20 points separate first from last. But again, the 2 teams on the outside looking in, Chicago and Grand Rapids, each 8 points out of the playoff race. So not looking great for Chicago and Grand Rapids, but again, anything can happen. And out in the Pacific, where 7 of 10 teams will make the playoffs, 4 have already clinched. Calgary, Coachella Valley, Abbotsford, and Colorado. And then you've got Ontario, Bakersfield, Tucson, and San Jose is the first team out right now. They're 5 points out of a playoff spot, followed by the Henderson Silver Knights and the San Diego Gulls. 2 teams that had really good years last year and find themselves in the base. So it's amazing in this league how that can happen, right? And you talk about roster fluctuation and turnover. You go from 1 year running the whole show to the next year you're basically rebuilding, and then it could flip on its head again come the following season.
Yeah, that's the magic of the American Hockey League, and you look at the fluctuation and the players that come through, and we've seen it a little bit now too, is a lot of U.S. college guys from Europe coming in, so it's kind of cool to see the development of all these different players, and I think that's kind of the calling card of the American Hockey League is you get to see these guys grow up right in front of your eyes, much like the OHL, and it's going to be definitely a push to the playoffs here with some new faces, which is exciting. Yeah,
it is exciting, and again, despite the fact the Sens are on the outside of the bubble right now, doesn't mean they can't get in, and a big week here against some tough opponents will certainly set them up nicely. I think you get 2 of 3 this weekend, set you up to take 2 from Cleveland next weekend, and then you go into the final 3-3 of the season against Rochester and Toronto again, with perhaps that opportunity to clinch a playoff spot in a couple of weeks. But work to be done, to say the least. And we'll see if the Senators are able to get that done here this week. Again, Friday night in Syracuse, we're on the air around 6:45 on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network and AHL TV. Saturday night, it is Country Night, 7:05 puck drop here. Tickets are still available, but a limited number of tickets. So head to Ticketmaster.ca or BellevilleSens.com to get those. And then Sunday afternoon, is it 3 or 4? On
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock start. So we're on the air 3:45 from Toronto on Sunday. And again, if you got nothing going on, the weather's not going to be bad, take a trip down and support the Senators on the road on Sunday in Toronto. Another good show, Joel. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always fun to do one of these podcasts, and nice to talk to Breanne Matthews as well.
We didn't ask Breanne who's coming on the show next week.
Oh. Maybe we'll have to pick.
That's a miss on our... Should we pick? Do you want to pick right now?
You're putting me on the spot. I think I'm going to go Evan Jeffrey.
Evan Jeffrey, you're up next. I'm yelling because he can maybe hear us. That will be next week on Get to Know Your FO, when we will recap the 3-3 and get you set for those massive, massive games against the Cleveland Monsters. Until then, for Joel Vanderlaan and David Foote, and Breanne Matthews. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, and we'll talk to you next week on the Belleville Sens Podcast.